Korea. Now, what we're learning is South Korean president on early Wednesday announced the removal of emergency martial law following a vote of National Assembly calling for its termination. This is what we are learning as far as the martial law implementation in South Korea is in fact concerned. In the wee hours, the Yoon's cabinet approved a motion to end martial law enforcement approximately 6 hours after he had declared it on Tuesday in response to what he called anti-state activities by the opposition parties there, which he claimed were paralyzing the government. As reported by the news reports there, the emergency declaration raised concerns both domestically and internationally. And according to reports, what we are learning is that the Joint Chiefs of Staff of South Korea confirmed that troops deployed to enforce the martial law had returned to their bases, signaling a return to normalcy. President explained that the emergency martial law had been declared to protect the nation from the anti-state forces attempting to disrupt the functioning and the constitutional order. However, after the National Assembly demanded its repeal, he withdrew the troops. At 11 p.m. last night, he said that he has declared emergency martial law with resolute intent to save the nation in the face of the anti-state forces that attempt to paralyze the nation's essential function and constitutional order of the free democracy. He said after this martial law was in fact implemented there. So straight away going across to my colleague Srinjoy Roy Chaudhary for more on this. What we are learning is that now South Korea president has announced the removal of emergency martial law. Could you give us more details as to what happened in the last few hours there?
Well, emergency martial law lasted only a few hours, and it's very unusual at this point to have martial law because there was no external threat. There was no threat from North Korea, as you would have expected. North Korea poses a very potent threat to South Korea. But despite there not being a threat from North Korea, though President Yoon mentioned communism in North Korea, there was no attack as there was in, say, 1950. So there was no threat as such. The threat was actually to his government, and he imposed martial law for about 6 or 7 hours. But at that point, there was international uproar, and his allies too must have been a little concerned about the whole thing. He too would have realized things would not come to be very successful. More importantly than all of these reasons, all parliamentarians in the assembly voted it down. There were 190 parliamentarians. There was an emergency parliament session, and martial law was voted down. So as a result, the president had no choice but to go through with lifting martial law, which lasted only a few hours. The basic issue here is the fact that there was no overriding, there was no huge crisis which led to martial law. This would have been an internal political crisis, and that is not really a reason for martial law. So there were internal pressures, internal opposition to the martial law, and also possibly external. Other friendly countries would have probably not approved of this as well. So as a result, parliamentarians, South Korean parliamentarians themselves voted to lift the martial law. And once that was done, martial law, the era of martial law, which only lasted a few hours, was finally over.
Absolutely, and what my colleague here is telling us that martial law, in fact, was imposed for only a few hours, and what we're learning as that the United States has welcomed this decision by the president of South Korea to withdraw the martial law is what we're learning. But definitely, hours after president declared the martial law in South Korea, now the decision has been reversed. That order has now been withdrawn by South Korea is what we're learning.